Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AM Report for Haps News Network of Now. I'm Alex Mahajer. It's Tuesday, March 23rd, a very somber morning this morning as we learn of 10 dead in this mass shooting that happened in Boulder, Colorado. I see Chris joining from Denver. Good to see you this morning, Chris, and hope you're all doing okay out there. I imagine this is unimaginably tragic and difficult for people in that community and really across the United States. As Renee is pointing out, we're going to talk about this mass shooting this morning, which is happening just a week after 8 people were killed, including 6 Asian American women in Atlanta, Georgia last week. And here we are again. And it begs the question, as the United States starts to reopen, are we returning back to normal in ways that we've forgotten, including the epidemic of gun violence in America? We're going to talk about all this and more this morning on the AM Report. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. I'm Alex Mahajer. If you're watching on the Haps app or platform website, click the award button. Let me know you're enjoying the broadcast, or click hello. Let me know what your city you're watching from. If you're watching on Reddit, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, leave a comment and let's bat around. I'd like to hear your thoughts this morning as we learn about the shooting that happened in Colorado. Let's see. First and foremost, yes, 10 people have been killed in a mass shooting in Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado. A shooting happened in a King Soopers supermarket. And as the country reopens, the epidemic of gun violence resumes. 21-year-old man has been arrested and charged with murder after going on a shooting rampage in a King Soopers supermarket. The dead include police officer Eric Talley, 51, and no motive has been discovered yet, but the man who is believed to be responsible has been arrested and charged with murders. And this young man, whose name I'm not going to say it, instead I want to focus on the people who were the victims of this shooting, as is often the case. And this is a real tragedy, and it's right on time as the country's coronavirus pandemic starts to see a sharp decrease in new infections and new death rates. And businesses and the country begin to slowly reopen. It just seems fitting that as that happens, so too do these mass shootings start again. And one of the people who was there at the supermarket yesterday did an interview saying this is just normal. You know, we may have forgotten over the past year because things were closed and people weren't out, but now things are reopened again, people are out again, and right on time, the shootings have started. And it is reviving a debate in this country, a conversation in this country that's been going on for a long time about implementing gun reform and safety, gun safety laws, reasonable ones, ones that have broad bipartisan support from voters. You know, the National Rifle Association is not as heavy a presence. It went under last year because of a huge judgment against it, filed for bankruptcy. And we had 4 years of an administration that was lax on gun reform. The Republican Party, the elected officials in the Republican Party have been very, very adamant about of not having gun reform legislation on the books. In fact, they did a lot to undo a lot of Obama's actions to create some safety around gun usage and purchases. And Joe Biden has pledged to a very comprehensive gun safety policy. It holds manufacturers accountable for the purchase for firearms that are used in shootings. It gets weapons of war like assault weapons off the street and high-capacity magazines off the street. I'll note that when this happened in the 90s under President Clinton, gun deaths dropped precipitously, and it was only after President George W. Bush allowed that ban on assault weapons to lapse that gun deaths and violence began to increase again. So this has been proven to be constitutional. The Supreme Court has ruled that this assault weapons ban is constitutional, and two, it has been shown to be effective. So really, that needs to happen, and Democrats can't get any of that done because Republicans won't do it unless they eliminate the filibuster. This is your daily filibuster reminder. The filibuster needs to go. This policy by Joe Biden would ban the manufacture and sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. It would regulate possession of existing assault weapons under the National Firearms Act. It would buy back assault weapons and high-capacity magazines already in communities. It would reduce stockpiling of weapons. It would keep guns out of dangerous hands by instituting a federal background check system, require background checks for all gun sales, close other loopholes in the federal background check system, and reinstate the Obama-Biden policy about keeping guns out of the hands of people who have mental health issues, close the hate crime loophole, that would prohibit an individual who's been convicted of a misdemeanor hate crime from purchasing or possessing a firearm. And there's much more. Visit joebiden.com/gun safety if you're interested in learning more about Joe Biden's plan for this and what Democrats can do to make sure this isn't the new normal, back to our new normal. Stop race hate towards everyone, says Ariel Moon. Yes, we don't know that this particular shooting was motivated by race, but I will say that when it's a community of white people in Boulder, Colorado, it gets much more calls to action, I think, typically, than you see in other shootings in communities. They do need background checks, says Ariel Moon, indeed. Chris is saying he's waiting to hear if any of of the victims are friends or neighbors of his parents. Please, you're in my thoughts, and I hope that everyone is safe and that your loved ones are safe. I want to play for you Boulder Police Chief Maris Harold talking about this shooting last night at a press conference. Here she is.
The first thing I want to say is I want to say our hearts of this community go out to the victims of this horrific incident. We know of 10 fatalities at the scene, including one of our Boulder PD officers by the name of Eric Talley, who's been on the Boulder Police Department since 2010. He's served in numerous roles supporting the Boulder Police Department and the community of Boulder. And I have to tell you, the heroic action of this officer when he responded to this scene. At 14:30 hours, the Boulder Police Department began receiving phone calls of shots fired in the area and a phone call about a possible person with a patrol rifle. Officer Talley responded to the scene, was the first on the scene, and he was fatally shot. I also want to commend the heroic actions of the officers responding not only from Boulder PD, but from across the county and other parts of this region. Police officers' actions fell nothing short of being heroic. I also want to thank the men and women who responded, including state, local, and federal authorities. Obviously, this is a very complex investigation that will take no less than 5 days to complete. And again, my heart goes out to the victims of this incident. And I'm grateful for the police officers that responded, and I am so sorry about the loss of Officer Talley. And again, we will be here working night and day. We have one suspect in custody. I want to reassure the community that they are safe.
Yeah, so there's that, and altogether tragic. Thank you for not giving that monster notoriety. Wishing all the outlets would do the same. Thank you, Jay, for that comment. Burnett Crockett says, so sad. Good morning, Jay from Branson, and Danny from the Netherlands. Hello from Facebook. Hello from Sweden. Hello, Coconut Creek, Florida. Good to see you. It's close to home, says Chris. This time for me and my family, it's my in-laws' grocery store. I've been there many times. Wow, that's truly sad. A commenter saying, Dems in the House, sudden urge in gun violence. Yes, how terrible. Democrats seeking to actually do something about an epidemic of gun violence that kills 40,000 people a year, and we are the leaders in the free world of gun violence and gun violence deaths exponentially. The next following country isn't even close. It's a problem. Joey Gianla, good friend, says check out Disarm the Hate documentary. My good friend Joey. Check out this documentary. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's about LGBTQ gun violence. As we know, LGBTQ Americans are also targeted. The Orlando shootings that happened just a few years ago, one of the worst mass shootings on American soil, targeting LGBTQ people. Check this documentary out. It's fantastic, and Joey was a part of it. Very proud of you, Joey. So that's kind of what we have for you on this. We'll learn more about the motives of this shooter, hopefully, and find out what exactly was going on with this. But he's been charged with murder and will stand trial. Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, is planning his next major legislation just, weeks after his $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package passed. The $3 trillion proposal will be another seismic shift in the American economy. So what he's trying to tackle now is jobs and infrastructure. President Biden's already planning this $3 trillion package that includes free community college and pre-kindergarten and measures to vastly reduce carbon pollution, which is in keeping with his promise to tackle climate change head on. He'll be looking to help pay with tax hikes on the rich and corporations. Very, very welcome news this morning that the president, as he's touring the country selling his success on the COVID relief bill, is now working on selling his next big plan on the economy. Now, this is something that could potentially pass using budget reconciliation because it has to do with the budget. We'll see as details unfold because seems to be in its early stages. Also note that President Biden's COVID relief bill was a major piece of legislation and happened in only 50 days. And the last several previous presidents had to wait over 300 days before scoring their first big legislative victory. Biden did it in 50. And so let's see if this can be done through budget reconciliation or if Democrats will have to eliminate the filibuster or reform the filibuster in order to make it happen. Either way, it needs to happen. And I'm looking forward to hearing more details, and we'll share them with you as we learn them. And finally, this morning, the election lie peddler, Sidney Powell, Trump campaign associate, is in court on her defamation lawsuit from Dominion Voting Systems after she spent the later part of last year and the beginning of this year touring the country on the press and in rallies, calling the election stolen and saying that she had personally seen evidence that Dominion Voting Systems had changed votes, that communist money was coming in from China and Venezuela. And she told the judge yesterday that the case should be dismissed because no reasonable person would have believed her. I mean, she didn't even try to say that the statements were true in her lawsuit. She's not even contending that they're true. She's just saying, yeah, they're not true, but no reasonable person would have believed this shit. So her well-publicized comments about an international plot against former President Trump, she's saying no one would reasonably believe those were statements of fact. I mean, if you've seen video of this woman touring the country, frothing at the mouth, saying she's going to release the Kraken, she absolutely was presenting this as statements of fact, had no evidence to support it. Now she's facing $1 billion lawsuit in defamation from the voting systems company that she defamed. She did defame them. And rightfully so. And she needs to go down. Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, is calling for Sidney Powell to be disbarred so she can never come to Michigan again and spread this kind of pedagogy and demagoguery and crazy pants. She's crazy. And she deserves what's coming to her. People should be held accountable for peddling this big lie and interfering with our democratic processes. So we'll keep our eyes on that. This has been the AM Report for HAPS News, Network of Now. We're live every weekday morning with all of your quick political news and headlines to get your day started right. If you like this journalism, if you like this content, please consider sponsoring it. You can do that at haps.tv/@Alex, where you can become a recurring monthly sponsor, buy me a cup of coffee, or just click subscribe and get notifications when we go live every morning. Thank you for the High Five Award, Colin. Thank you, Adam, for the Together Award. Thank you also for the Great Reporting Award. I appreciate you. Let's see some comments. I hope they rake them over the coals, says Renee Barone. Indeed, yes, indeed. Governments govern, and without governments, there's only chaos, says Charles Petrie. Yes, indeed. It's time for our government to govern. It's a question of how involved the government is in the lives of its people. I think when it comes to public safety, the government should be very involved to make sure that we have safety measures in place to protect our citizens. So, Charles says, sadly, my city has had its share of post-secondary shootings. I think this is something that happens everywhere. It's an epidemic of gun violence. So, you guys, thank you so much. Jay says, thank you for bringing civil dialogue to our everyday. It is appreciated. Yes, sometimes I get a little spicy, but I do try to keep it civil, and I do try to be open to hearing thoughts with which I disagree. I think that's the American way, and we should return to that. Let's see. Thank you. Anyway, so very good. Thanks, guys, for joining. We'll be back tomorrow morning, and stay safe out there.